If you could talk to that Christy 8 years ago, what would you tell her?
Don't do it.
If she's already out there, how would you tell Christy to leave?
Just get in your car and go far away. Don't stay in the state. Go far away.
Would you tell her to bring anything with her?
She wouldn't have to. Just get out. Stuff's not important. Your life is. Your sanity is. Was this August of 2014? What was the envelope postmarked at, since I did not?
August 14th.
August 14th of 2014?
Yes, you were only out there for 2 months.
So I wrote this to you, my brother, Derek. Please call Leanne. And since this is being recorded, I'm not going to say the phone number, but I put Leanne's phone number in there. Tell her my phone is being traced. Calls, texts, emails, everything. Tell her I will find some way to talk to her once I move out of this house. I know the text I sent her was wrong. Tell her I am sorry. I had nothing to do with it. I'm trying to save my marriage. It may or may not be saved. Paul really is a great guy. If I wrote that, going through all this would make anybody crazy. I'm desperately trying so hard to make this marriage work. Rip, circled and underlined, ripped this letter up. If this is ever found out, Paul will rid of me in a heartbeat. I don't know what the last line says. I'm doing fine. My life is not in danger. Please tell her why I couldn't respond to texts. I cannot, will not speak of Paul to anyone anymore. I love you all. Everyone has to remember of the tracing. I can't even risk getting mail. I can speak of I'm fine and life, but nothing about marriage or Paul. I hope everyone understands, with a sad face. Shred, in all caps, this letter. It can never, in all caps, be found out. Please promise me, do not speak of it. Stress this to Leanne. Tell her I will always love her. I can't even Google her address to send a letter without getting caught. So,
Way worse than you thought it was.
well, it's really sad to see Paul is really a great guy because he's a monster. And it's a lie. But at the time, he had me so brainwashed thinking it was my fault.
That's right.
So I'm thinking he's this great guy and I'm this horrible person.
How long after this letter do you think you tried to take your own life?
6 months.
How long after this letter until he held a gun up to your head for the first time?
Oh,
Well, we'll start out. What was the first time he strangled you after this letter?
timelines are hard because I'm foggy.
How many times do you think he strangled you?
Well, without me going blacked out? Oh. I don't know.
How many times has he held a gun to your head?
Twice.
How many times has he threatened your life?
Multiple. I couldn't even tell you how many.
Do you remember the different ways he claimed he would take your life?
Oh, well, if I called the cops. According to him, the protective orders or restraining orders, whatever you want to call them, are just pieces of paper, and that cops are just picture takers. So if I ever called the cops and they showed up at the door, he's basically saying that I'd be dead before they would take him away, because he wasn't never going to go to jail. He's talked about murder-suicide. And then, honestly, I can't, it's almost like my brain's going foggy, like I can't remember everything at one time, and I know I have notes, and I'd have to look at all my notes to even, it's like try to refresh my memory sometimes, because I can't recall things like this. And a lot of times I think of things when I don't want to think of things. I didn't feel safe telling the truth to the counselor when I tried taking my life, when I was being surveillanced over 72 hours at, I don't know what they call it, a mental ward maybe, I don't know. It was hospital protocol to be put in one of those places and be watched over for 72 hours. So I never told the truth because I knew that counselor was talking to Paul as well, and I was always afraid that he would tell Paul my reasonings for what I did, and I was afraid that if I told them the truth and they took him away and he did go to jail once he got out, he'd be after me because of me putting him to jail for telling them what he did to me. The timeline on that, at that time, I think Kiana might have it more right than me. I don't think that was the time when he tried choking me and blacking me out. Or he didn't try choking me, he choked me and I blacked out. But Kiana said that she remembered him saying that he held a gun to his head that first night that I was in being watched. And so what I think that is telling me is basically that was the second time that he held a gun to my head. So I think he's projecting. He didn't hold a gun to his head. He held a gun to my head. So my timeline is not clear, because at one point throughout the 8 years, 3 months, and 1 day, at one point, and I don't remember at what point, but I had forgiven him. But along with that forgiveness, believe it or not, I literally blocked out and had forgotten what he did to me. I forgot about him holding the gun to my head twice. I forgot about him wrapping his hands around my neck and choking me until I blacked out. I literally forgot about it. And then at some point, the fights were getting it was like there was a moment of calmness in a sense, like it wasn't happening as frequently for a small while. And then all of a sudden, they started ticking up and becoming more frequent and then getting a little more aggressive. And there was something in me that just triggered and sparked that memory. How it came back, I have no idea, but maybe it was God trying to talk to me and reminding me, like maybe it was a forewarning of things are going to get really bad. I'm not sure, but all of a sudden I remembered that he held a gun to my head twice and that he had taken his hands and choked me. He straddled me on top of our bed, each leg on each side of my body.
When he held the gun to your head, was it loaded and cocked?
The first time, I remember that slide being cocked, like he pulled it back. I was in the bathroom on my knees, in the master bathroom on my knees. He had the gun against my head. Usually his guns that he has by his bed or on his nightstand, they're normally already cocked. I just know this from living with him. And I know that if there was an emergency situation, if somebody was breaking in, that I never had my gun cocked, and I knew in my mind that if there was an emergency, I needed to pull my slide back and be ready. But with him, his was always ready, except for that one day I remember hearing it go back. Now, was it a scare tactic? Was there actually a clip in it? I don't know. I was so scared. I have no idea. All I know was I was waiting to hear a little click of the trigger because I was that scared. I was horrified, not knowing. Because in my mind, that gun's loaded, and I heard that slide. And it was almost like I was just kind of like clenching, like my eyes, like I knew. Like that was it. But Kiana was living with us at that time. Both times.